That's the Mona system. I hope Leonardo da Vinci doesn't mind. So there's 9, just like the solar system has 9 planets, you know, the 9th, of course, being Pluto. And we're going to Pluto in 2006, hopefully. And when I met President Bush, I asked him to not cut funding to the mission to go to Pluto. So he told me, he said, Pluto? And then I whispered in his ear and said, you'll get a lot of Checky votes. And then he pointed back to me and said, I'm going to send you to Pluto.
I've got an umbrella and you don't. I've got an umbrella and you don't. I've got an umbrella. I've got an umbrella. I've got an umbrella and you don't.
There's my website, ultrarenaissance.com, hyphenated. The first idea I ever had for anything digital, that was originally I wanted to do a screen, like a silk screen, you know, do it exactly in Andy Warhol's style, you know. It's the only thing he could never do in his lifetime is to do it, you know, his own grave. So that's his grave, that's his parents' grave behind him, that's his grave bigger. And he was a Leo, huh? August 6th, that's the same day of Hiroshima. I wanted to show you the original why Shang was called Shang. Because Shanging, you know, the Dada artists did collaborative work during World War I. There's a lot of artists. The artists that didn't actually fight for their country and die, like a lot of artists fought and died. Some fought and didn't die, like Otto Dix, who was a German expressionist. And some didn't fight and went to Zurich and founded the Dada movement. We decided to do a second one. This is the original Shang that Sean did. So he never colored it in. And he had to go. It's like, well, he drew that and I gotta go. And we did some collaborative work, BWC and I did the original and we did it going back and forth. I let him do a version. You know, you just save it as, you know, the Magnificent Man with a hole in his head 2. And then you know, we go back and forth. And that's after 8, that's the 8th time of going back and forth. And there's the frog 2. There's a little mushroom that's smiling. And I did a whole series of art mocking the media. That's Red Ted. Ted Koppel, I've always thought, reminds me of Big Brother, just the way he's so pompous. And I thought of the idea of doing Ted Koppel as Big Brother right before ABC got bought out by Disney. So I decided to add Mickey Mouse ears to Ted. And there's the Thought Police Tribunal, and I, you know, had all, like, even kids are brainwashed at a young age, you know, and then, you know, there's Phil Donahue and MTV and Jerry Springer, you know, Bozo, Mike Wallace, Barney, Geraldo. And there's Barbara Walters next to Geraldo. She asked the most impertinent questions to people. I think she was interviewing Martha Stewart, and I think she was saying, how do you feel that so many people hate you? And I felt like saying to her, well, I think more people hate you, Barbara, than hate Martha Stewart. You know, how do you feel about that? You know, or how can you be that arrogant to ask her about how many people hate you and her when more people hate you? I mean, let's take a poll. You know, it takes 1,000 people to have a valid scientific poll. So that'd be a fun poll to do. Like, who do you hate more? You know, you could have, who do you hate? Do you hate Barbara Walters? Do you hate Barbara Stewart? If you hate both, who do you hate more? So this one's called Thought Police Triptych, and it was part of my solo show I had at Portland State back in July 1999, and had 10 works that I got printed up. So, you know, even though it's digital, you know, you can print it up. I have the right, you know, as an artist to, you know, satire the media or anything I want. You know, I have free speech. not only as an American, but as a human being.
Can you see the World Trade Center in the background? That's the World Trade Center. And we are in Soho. Those are the Twin Towers.
This one was weird because I did this before 9/11. You know, the Sears Tower 4. Because when I took the picture of the Sears Tower, there was a plane way above it. And so I thought it'd be cool to see the plane better because no one could notice it. It was so high. And I think the terrorists were, the Sears Tower was a target, but they had grounded all the flights. And I think it was that night I drew that. The night did it, 9/11, that night. And this one, I grabbed that from a page, of people jumping off the World Trade Center. And did that lady. I added purple to it. Andy Warhol did a disaster series, and he did pictures of. He did a picture of someone jumping, suicide. I figured, well, Andy Warhol can do it, I can do it too, and I added with respect and love and rage because I know some people would automatically think that I was being disrespectful. I once said art is eternal action, and she's always alive there. August 7th, 2003. They're working on Ground Zero. A lot of flags around now. That's a cross I think that the workers made. They cut the metal so that it, looked like a cross. It's cool. And it was so depressing, going to Ground Zero. Because I lived in New York City in 1993. And I was there when they bombed it the first time. I took the subway and just went up to the Upper West Side. And that's where I met Oscar. So I bought a CIA hat at Ground Zero. It made me feel less powerless. Let's say there's terrorists around, like admiring their work, or whatever, and they're there, and they'd see me in the CIA hat, and they'd be thinking, uh-oh, he's CIA. But they'd be thinking, no, he's not CIA, because a CIA guy wouldn't wear a hat saying CIA. But then maybe he's CIA because he's wearing the hat, and he's thinking that we're thinking he's not CIA, so he really is CIA. So I thought, yeah, okay, it's worth $5. I was a little mad then. I did a map of Afghanistan as a parking lot. CNN had a chat line for a while, and they closed it down after 9/11, I think, because there was just so many hateful posts. But when it was still up, I emailed the link to some lady from CNN, and her husband worked in the Defense Department, and she forwarded it to him, and he printed that map. This image was actually right in some office in the Defense Department after 9/11. I like space. Chilling on planet Venus. That was taken by NASA, I think. They use radar because Venus has so many clouds. I think those lines and those ripples, that's volcanic, I think it's dried now. And that's Pluto Night Fever. That's with John Travolta. See, it kind of looks like a disco ball in that picture because it's a very distant photo. That's Orange Moe. That's a rock called Moe on Mars. That NASA named it Moe. That's a close-up of a spot on Europa. I call it Europi. Europa Highway. That kind of looks like a road, doesn't it? It was originally black and white, and it's like a throwaway image. It's on the NASA website page, pictures of Europa, and most people won't see it. So I wanted to make them into art, and so people actually see them, so, it becomes part of our culture. They're so beautiful. And that's Io, one of the moons of Jupiter, and and Jupiter. The bands of Jupiter in the background. That's pretty cool. That's the Crab Nebula. It was funny the way I created that, because this lady, she was saying that everything's been done in art. Nothing can be made original anymore. And I told her that, everything is unique in the universe. There's only one Crab Nebula. This one is called Burger Slob. It's done on a Burger King coupon. I'm kind of playing with the food, now all the food's in his mouth, right? I colored it in. So that's Burger Slob. So,
We're here to go.
we're here. I used to be able to make the perfect Whopper. You know, the perfect Whopper has 2 tomatoes, 4 pickles. Not too heavy with the mayo, you know, and some ketchup. And it's done in exact order too. I ordered heavy tomatoes, so that should be 3. There should actually be 3 tomatoes in my Whopper. We can test right now and see if they made this Whopper correctly. There should be 3 tomatoes in it. So I ordered heavy tomato. Wow. Look at that. Right here.
That's a chicken Whopper.
Yeah.
Hello.
Have it your way, that's Burger King. Have it your way, it's Burger King. I can do like a falsetto too, like a, okay, there should be 3 tomatoes. See? Okay, there you go, see? I told you. I was going to say about Demosthenes, you know, who wrote the greatest speech ever, the world's best orator, greatest orator in the world. He practiced speaking with pebbles in his mouth, like rocks in his mouth, in order to you know, speak loudly, I guess, in order to, you know, he had to address, you know, big crowds of Athenians, you know, in the Colosseum or whatever they had in Athens, you know. So, you know, it's good if you want to be a speaker to like practice talking as you're like eating a Whopper. You know what I mean? But I love you. I remember when I painted that painting in Ann Arbor, like an hour before I painted it, I was having a discussion about what is art with a couple people, and they were just, you know, talking about what is art? Well, what is art? And then it was funny because right after I finished that, it was still wet and I had it on a newspaper, and I walked out of my room with it sitting on a newspaper, and I said, "This is art. You're asking, what is art? There is some art." And they were all impressed, you know, they knew they were looking at art, and it was wet, freshly painted, wet. Walking in the sun with courage and love. I did this one after I had gotten rejected by the woman that I loved. There was a heart-shaped thing in my room in Lansing. It was like just from a bad paint job, you know, there was a splotch in the wall, and it looked like a heart bursting. This is called heart bursting, and it's based on the shape in my room in Lansing. It's probably still there. What to say? It's abstract, and it was like, it had to do with my emotional life. It was like what to say to the, you know, woman I was in love with. What to say? Because things weren't working out, so what do you say?